championship and celebrating the 20th anniversary of their first win in style.
You know, after Canada went out, it was always going to go this way, wasn't it?
This is SportsCenter.
Hey, I'm Marissa Roberto, and just like that, the World Juniors have come and gone. As host Sweden took on the Americans in a gold medal game that ended just moments ago. Let's go straight to the highlights and pick this one up in the first. Delayed penalty coming to Sweden when the Americans strike first.
McGroarty feeds that back to Smith. Will Smith tees it up and shoots, and they score! Deflected in front by Gabe Perreault, and with a penalty coming, the United States takes a 1-0 lead.
So 1-0 USA after one, to the second when the home team evens things up.
Under Sorum. Back at the point for Elias Pettersson. Kaplan shoots, tip score! Stenberg in front, and the game is tied at 1.
The home crowd absolutely loving it, which is so cool that they're in Sweden and they're giving this to their Swedish fans. You love to see it. But the Americans would bounce right back. Unreal pass frees Isaac Howard on the breakaway, and he goes backhand to put the Americans up 2-1. His 6th of the tournament. But seriously, look at that pass one more time. Are you kidding me? And Howard was not done there. Late in the second from a bad angle, he just throws one on net. And just like that, the Americans are up 3-1. Swedish fans absolutely heartbroken. But the heartbreak would not last long. Seconds to go in the period, Swedes on the power play. And they pull one back to close out a wild second period. USA up 3-2 after 2. But just over a minute into the third, the Americans restored their 2-goal lead.
Off the face-off. One shot, Boyum scores! And a minute 19 seconds into the third period, Steve Boyum has given the U.S. its 2-goal lead back.
They would go on to add 2 more in the period, as the Americans win gold at the World Juniors for the 6th time in their history, and first time since 2021. Listen, I'm happy for you, America, but the blowing kisses thing, man, that was just mean. They're blowing kisses at the Swedish fans in the stands. That's kind of mean, though. It's kind of mean. It's giving bully. It's giving bully. It's fine. You know what, Gloat? I get it. You won, but just a little salty over here for the Canadians and the Swedes. To the association, and the New Look Raps go for 3 straight tonight against the Kings. And we touched on this before the Grizzlies game, but this trade has Toronto looking like a different team altogether. Now let's once again give this giant caveat. This is an extremely small sample size. It's literally been 2 games. But that siren will not stop us from getting excited. Because as you can see from this graphic, the Raps, since the trade, are scoring more, have a higher field goal percentage, and more importantly are shooting the 3 much better and turning it over less. But things could look very different a week from now. Because this is the beginning of what looks like on paper as a very grueling Western road trip. As after tonight, they're at the Warriors, Lakers, Clippers, and Jazz before heading home. I do like that we're keeping it positive though, because with new trades means new opportunity, okay? This is an exciting time to be a Raptors fan. To the NFL, and can you believe it, Week 18 is already here. And there's a ton on the line this weekend. And I'm just gonna say it, while I do love that the playoffs are right around the corner, it's a little sad that there are only 5 more Sundays of football left. Let's start with the biggest game this weekend, and that's the Sunday nighter between the Dolphins and Bills. A game you can watch on TSN, of course. And here's the clinching scenarios for Buffalo. If the Bills beat Miami, they win the AFC East and are the 2 seed. But if they lose, they could still get in with the Steelers' loss or tie against a Ravens team sitting most of their players, or a Jags loss or tie against the Titans, or the very rare possibility of a tie between Houston and Indy Saturday night. Now for Miami, if they win, they're the 2 seed, but a loss means they're the 6 seed and have a matchup with the Chiefs in Arrowhead on wildcard weekend, which you know we're all going to be watching because Swift's going to be in the house. Now with these divisional matchups, it's important to look at the history. And for Josh Allen, this is a matchup that he absolutely loves, as he's 10-2 including playoffs in his career versus Miami, and is putting up some truly video game numbers, as he has 39 total touchdowns in those 12 games. Now outside of the AFC East, there are still 3 other divisions on the line this weekend, as the AFC South, NFC East, and NFC South are still TBD. Overall, there are 20 teams in playoff contention. That's tied for second most all time heading into the final week of the season, with only the 1982 season being higher, when 22 teams were in playoff contention heading into the final week. And it all gets started Saturday on TSN when the Ravens host the Steelers. Baltimore will be resting most of its starters, as Snoop Huntley will be under center for the Ravens, with Lamar resting. Then after that, the South and playoff spots are on the line, as the Colts host the Texans. Isn't it nice when your weekend plans are already made? Let's go! With just 3 games in the NHL tonight, and only 1 northern team in action, we thought it'd be a good time for a cruise around Canada to check in on what the Canadian NHL teams are up to this weekend. Let's start in the Atlantic, where the bottom of the division is not what we expected. The Canadians fell 6-1 to the Sabres last night, and they've now dropped 4 of their last 5 games. It's funny though, because even as poorly as the season has gone, it still feels better than expected. I mean, who would have thought they would have been ahead of the Sabres and Sens in the standings? You know, the same Sabres and Sens that were both supposed to make leaps this year and make the playoffs? And speaking of the Sens, things have been pretty tough in the nation's capital lately. Well, I mean, just for the men's team, the women's team is obviously crushing it. The Sens have dropped 2 in a row by 3-goal margins, and the top players are not cutting it lately. Their top 4 forwards have combined for 1 goal and 4 assists in their last 4 games. And head coach Jacques Martin said he won't be afraid to shorten the bench if the underwhelming performances continue. On to the Leafs, who will try for the California sweep tomorrow night as they take on the Sharks in the 3rd game of this road trip. And the question most people are wondering is, should Martin Jones play for the 3rd game in a row? He's only allowed 1 goal through his first 2 games on the trip and made 58 saves combined in those games. Although it's definitely not standard procedure to have a 33-year-old play 3 times in a row. But it's just kind of where the Leafs are at right now. Unless they want to turn to the Hildebeest, who has only 15 games of AHL experience. We're also getting round 2 of the Connor Bowl this weekend, when the Oilers head to Chicago riding a 6-game win streak. Bedard has been held off the score sheet for 2 games in a row, while McDavid had 5 points in his last game. So one Connor's looking to bounce back, while the other is looking to keep rolling. Every time we compare the Connors, I still feel like it's a little unfair, you know, obviously because of their ages, but it is fun. You just can't enter the NHL and be named Connor at this point. Sorry, you're going to be pitted against one another. Back to the NFL, and let's continue my journey into learning betting. Time now for Marissa Learns Betting. It's just a good title. It gives you what you want. Earlier in the show, we talked about the big things that matter Sunday in terms of playoffs and seeding, but there's a lot more that matters outside of that. We're talking guys getting paid by hitting incentives.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, money, money,
I mean, who could forget this moment a few years back when Gronk got $1 million on the last game of the season?
Let's go, I need one more. Yeah. If I don't get the 7th catch, I have to go get a real job.
What does that mean? Cha-ching. Gronkowski has his catch bonus.
You got $1 million?
Yeah, I got $1 million.
You got $1 million?
Oh, I got $1 million. We going. Where we going?
To the city.
Aw, you know what? I kind of love that. QB's got his back. Everyone wants them to make money. That's what friends are about, okay? You should want your friends to make money. That's how you make money. It's all about karma, baby. So let's take a look at some guys this weekend also hoping to get paid, and maybe how we can profit off of that. Let's start with DeAndre Hopkins, who could potentially make $750K with the big game. The most attainable of those is that he only needs 39 receiving yards to hit 1,050 on the season. If he also adds 7 catches, that's another $250K. And finally, the hardest of the bunch, if he gets 2 tutties to hit 8 on the season, you guessed it, another $250,000. His odds are not yet out on FanDuel, but hitting all that seems like it would make for a nice tasty same-game parlay. Next up, let's look at Devin Singletary, who needs 74 scrimmage yards to get to $1,100 on the year. And if he does that, he will earn $250,000. And over his last 3, he's given you much more than that, averaging just over 105 rush and receiving yards per game. And he's up against one of the worst rush defenses in the NFL in Indy, who are giving up an average of 127.6 rush yards per game. And checking FanDuel, they have Singletary's rush and receiving yards set at 84.5. So if you think he's going to get paid, maybe smash the over, and then you will also get paid. Now, despite money on the line, not all the players will get a chance to earn it. Yesterday, Odell Beckham Jr., who needs just 5 catches to get $250K, told people, "Don't bet on my props." And shortly after, the Ravens announced that he would not be on the field Sunday. Because they have the 1 seed, they're resting several players, including OBJ. I feel like it's very selfish of the team. OBJ should be able to get paid if he wants to get paid. Like, just put him in, coach. Put him in. And then there's the case of Chris Jones, who held out to start the year, and then signed a very incentive-driven contract, where he needs 10 sacks for an additional $1.25 million, and he's currently sitting on 9.5 sacks. But with the Chiefs already locked into the 3 seed, there's no real reason to play him, unless you want him to get that half sack and that $1.25 million. Well, so far there's no word yet on his availability Sunday. That's all for today. We'll see you right back here Monday. Have a good weekend.